Get ready for your weekly dose of pixie dust with Disney Coast to Coast.
Hey folks, and welcome to Disney Coast to Coast, the ultimate unofficial Disney fan podcast. I'm Jeff DePauli, and welcome to the Season 7 premiere of Disney Coast to Coast. To kick off this season, I have a very special guest for all of you. Joining me today will be Daniel Ross, who has been performing the voice of Donald Duck for the past several years on various Disney Junior projects. Daniel began his showbiz career on the East Coast before taking that leap of faith, packing up his things, and heading west to Los Angeles. In this exclusive DCTC interview, you'll hear stories about making that move, getting another dream voiceover role before Donald, and of course discussions about the main duck himself. Donald may even show up every now and again during the interview. All of that's coming up right after this. This episode of Disney Coast to Coast is being brought to you by the patrons of Disney Coast to Coast over at patreon.com/DisneyCTC. Thank you to Anna, Bonnie, Diego, Aaron, Jeffrey, Gerardo, James, Jared, Monet, Philip, and Rio, who have all headed to patreon.com/DisneyCTC and became part of the DCTC community. Along the way, they've been enjoying bonus content like live stream Q&As, early releases of episodes, a bonus episode of DCTC, some Disney swag, and much more. Thanks to all of them for making this episode possible, and if you'd like to get some DCTC bonus content and support the show at the same time, head to patreon.com/DIZNEYCTC. It all starts for just $1. Once again, that's patreon.com/DIZNEYCTC.
Prepare for some insight. You've tuned in to an exclusive DCTC interview.
Daniel, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
Yes, we're going to just start at the beginning because I don't know a ton about you, to be honest. So I've done my research and stuff, but I want to know, where did you grow up?
Oh, boy. Well, I grew up on the East Coast in the state of Maryland.
Okay.
Lived there my whole life until I lived here, which is Los Angeles. So I got here 5 years ago, packed up my car and drove cross country in the hopes of following a voiceover career. And, well, here we are.
Yeah,
on your show.
Seemed to be quite successful at it. This is the lowest credit. This show is the lowest credit you've had. So
no,
good for you.
Come on.
But so you did the cross country rep. I did the same thing from Massachusetts.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you take the northern route or the southern route?
Northern mostly.
Okay, I went south.
Okay, so I did like a whole 10-day. It made it a vacation sort of thing. And I stopped many places, but one of them was specifically I wanted to go to was Marceline, Missouri, where Walt Disney grew up.
Oh my gosh.
And it was amazing. It was like, what was it? Massachusetts to Ohio, where my sister lived, Ohio to St. Louis, where I had some friends, St. Louis to Marceline, Missouri. And then I think I got to Colorado, Vegas here. First day here, went to Disneyland.
Oh, great.
So yeah, no, what did you do? You did the Southern.
I went the Southern route, and, for me, it was work. So, I wasn't really taking a lot of time to sightsee. My job was to get here to Los Angeles and get myself going. But I did stop at, the Painted Desert, at the Petrified Woods National Park, and stopped in Vegas, stopped at the Hoover Dam. Just a couple of little sites, couple things that I really wanted to see. And I was super excited to see the desert too.
Yeah, it made me, and I never felt this way before that, but it made me want to road trip this country. Like, I loved it. Yeah. The mountains were not so much fun to drive, so I would definitely avoid that if you're ever going to do it. But otherwise, like, it's kind of an amazing country to drive through.
It really is.
I loved it.
It really is.
That's cool. I love that you did that.
And I stopped at the Grand Canyon and risked my life. There was an overlook area where all the tourists would go and snap pictures. And I'm looking out at this beautiful landscape, and it looks like a picture. It doesn't look real to my eyes. And to my left, this woman is gasping and pointing and saying, "Oh my gosh, look at those idiots." And I'm looking at what she's pointing at, and there are these people scaling the side of this cliff to get to a lookout. So I'm looking at them, and I'm looking at her, and I'm looking back at them, and I'm like, well, I could do that.
Oh no!
So I, like an idiot in my t-shirt, jeans, and sneakers, decided to scale this cliff 2 miles above the Colorado River, and I got to this amazing lookout point, and I dangled my feet over the edge, and I started to take a video just to send to my mom to be like, "Hey, Mom, look where I am!" And yeah, she got a hold of me right away and said, "Don't you ever do that to me again."
That is, this is going to be a weird tangent here, but people love to skydive and do crazy stuff like that. Here's the thing I want to do, and I'm not kidding when I say this, is I want to do like, you know how stuntmen get lit on fire and then like jump into a pool? That's the thing I want to do.
Oh my gosh.
And my mom's just like, if you ever do it, just tell me after. Don't tell me that you're going to do it. Tell me after when you're safe and all this good. But I'm like, it's kind of, you ever go to Universal Studios Hollywood? Where they, the Waterworld show, and they light him on fire and he jumps in. I'm like, I kind of want to do that. And like, it seems terrifying, but awesome all at the same time.
Isn't that crazy? You know, I used to produce films when I was on the East Coast, and one of our actresses is now the lead at the Waterworld stunt show at Universal. In fact, the movie Ninjas vs. Monsters that I produced just recently, the Wonder Woman trailer came out.
Yeah.
And my friend Lion Beckwith, who is the werewolf in Ninjas vs. Monsters, is one of the bad guys. So he was in the trailer, and it's like, oh man, all these great people that you grow up with and you work with are finding success. It's really cool.
It's a small world, small industry, and yeah, it's fun when that happens.
It's a small world after all.
Exactly.
Does everyone do that?
Well, not every episode, but every once in a while. So you grew up in Maryland, but when did that showbiz bug first bite?
Oh boy, probably when I was a little kid. Okay. You know, I think when I was in preschool, we put on a performance of Where the Wild Things Are, and we had to create our own costumes. And my mom, who's been my creative inspiration my whole life, she helped me make a costume. And of course, it was like one of the best costumes because we made it like a puppet.
Oh, cool.
So it was really like intricate, and it was made out of cardboard and everything else. But I think that was when I first got the bug and said, hey, I like that people are, engaging with me and laughing with me and having a good time. I like that.
Yeah.
And then as time progressed, I think in middle school, my very first musical was The Music Man.
It's my favorite. One of my favorites.
I played
Professor Harold Hill.
Professor Harold Hill, that's right. And
well, either you're closing your eyes to a situation you do not wish to acknowledge, or you are not aware of the caliber of disaster indicated by the presence of a pool table in your community.
Exactly.
I love it.
And just due to the age difference between everybody, the girls were already well grown, like they would be in high school, and I was still a little shrimpy guy.
Yeah.
So I was the bad guy, but I was the little guy too. But that was, I think, my first experience in theater. Yeah. And I caught the bug from there.
That's awesome. Did you go on to study it in college or anything?
I did. I started to get my degree in musical theater. Okay. Did a lot of summer dinner theater at Montgomery College in Rockville, Maryland, Camelot, West Side Story, The Wiz, so many different shows, all in the timing. And, I really cut my teeth doing that, and then kind of decided, you know what? Theater is it's not where my heart is. Mm-hmm. And I really wanted to try my hand at film. Okay. Because, I would go to the movie theater and you'd be in front of the same proscenium every single time, and it would be a different story, and you'd be teleported to this different place, and you'd always walk away feeling affected in some way, shape, or form, positively or negatively, whatever. If you were affected, I really liked that. Mm-hmm. So I dropped out of college, dropped out of the musical theater thing, and decided to pursue film. And that turned into a whole journey.
And this was all on the East Coast.
This was all between Maryland, DC, and Baltimore. Okay. And there were a lot of productions that would go through the major cities. We had Homicide: Life on the Street in Baltimore that was filming for a very long time, and movies would come through and use DC as a background. Sure. So we would have stuff coming through all the time, and I really fell in love with film. So as a struggling actor out there, I was trying to find work, and it wasn't always easy. And eventually I met my best friend, Justin Timpain, on the set of a sci-fi movie called Crawler. And this was from the late Don Dohler, who was known for a lot of 70s, like B sci-fi movies. And we just kind of decided, why don't we make our own movie? Let's try that. So we made this movie called Ninjas vs. Zombies. We looked around a Blockbuster one day for the movie that wasn't there.
Yeah.
And
Blockbuster.
Yep. Well,
touched my heart.
I used to be a store manager.
I used to work at Blockbuster.
What?
I kid you not when I say Blockbuster Video, truly one of my favorite jobs of all time. I was in high school. It was like a summer job, but I did it for a couple summers, and I still have fond memories. Like, there's the one left in Bend, Oregon.
Really?
And I really want to go. Like, I'm 1,000% sincere when I say I love Blockbuster Video, and I know that makes me an old man, but there's nothing like that. I can remember my mom being like, "Oh, it's raining this weekend. Okay, kids, get in the car. We're going to Blockbuster. Everybody pick a movie." And my brother would always want to pick some like wrestling, some old WWF at the time, wrestling, TV special. And I was like, "Pick a movie, not wrestling." But gosh, I loved it. So
I
in any
know.
case, sorry.
See, I'd go into that Blockbuster and want to organize all the movies. So
I do. I'm slightly OCD, so I'll do that in stores just in general. And my mom will be like, "Stop that!" It's just like,
oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, what are you gonna do?
Well, yeah, Blockbuster was a huge. I worked in retail for almost 15 years. Just to pay the bills while I did my other stuff. But Justin and I did Ninjas vs. Zombies, and it was a very low budget film. It was our first attempt at a feature, and somehow, some way, we got the attention of Eduardo Sanchez, the director of the Blair Witch Project, who is also a Maryland native, and he helped to guide us a bit, and we found distribution, international distribution, and we said, well, you know what? Well, let's strike while the iron's hot. Let's make Ninjas versus Vampires. So we made Ninjas vs. Vampires, and then all of a sudden, that was internationally sold. We got it on Netflix for 2 years.
Really?
And we're kind of scratching our heads like, wow, how did we do that? That was kind of cool. And I had a friend who was deployed in Iraq during the Iraq War, and he sent a picture of a bootleg copy of my movie that he found on a street market.
That's amazing.
And that year, we were, I think, in the top 10 illegally downloaded movies of that year. So, like, we were a little upset, like, oh, our movie's going out for free. But it's hard to be upset when something like that happens. It was kind of cool.
Where can people watch those now?
So, most of them are still on Amazon Prime. You can watch them for free. We have Ninjas vs. Zombies, Ninjas vs. Vampires, Ninjas vs. Monsters, which was the last of the trilogy. Amazon recently took down. So I think we're looking at options as to where to put that right now.
That's crazy. Okay, so you got this world. You start in theater, you go into film. When does voice acting start for you?
Wow. So
were you here or was this back home?
No, this was back home. Okay. So I was always a bit of a troublemaker.
Mm-hmm.
I used to do prank phone calls, and I remember, I don't know if you remember the Jerky Boys.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I recreated their entire second album at one point, and I recorded it on a micro cassette recorder, and I got myself in a lot of trouble with that. But yeah, I always used to do impressions and accents, and obviously cartoon characters, and you know who that we'll talk about later. So I think it was 2005. I heard that there was going to be a Transformers movie coming out. And I am a huge Transformers fan. I got some ink on me. This is Cybertronian on my right arm here that says Transform. And I've got a huge collection. And I think it was around the time of Beast Wars Transformers that I really took notice of the voice cast. David Kaye, David Sobolov, Gary Chalk, Scott McNeil, just such a wonderful breadth of talent on that show. And I was intrigued by the uniqueness of the voices. So it occurred to me, hey, this could be a vocation. This could be something that maybe I could do. But I didn't have the money or the means to really do anything. And so I helped run a website called allspark.com, which is still up and running. It's a big Transformers fan site. and I would do voice actor interviews, much like we're doing today, but over the phone. And I would play a character. I would play a character named Rook, and I would do my interviews like this. And I would interview the actor as themselves and as their characters, and it was a whole production.
That's
it was
cool.
a lot of fun.
That's fun.
And I kind of caught the bug.
Okay.
I kind of caught the bug a little bit. So I was interviewing one of my really good friends, David Sobolov, and he mentioned to me in his really deep, amazing voice, well, you know, I do demo production. And I'm thinking to myself, well, that's cool. You know, how much are your demos? And he gave me a price, and I immediately resigned myself that I would never be able to afford that. And that year, my tax return was for exactly that amount.
Wow.
So I said, okay, it's time to do a demo.
Wow.
So I did a demo with David. And again, I heard about this new Transformers movie. So my motto is it's the squeaky wheel that gets the grease.
Mm-hmm.
So I had some of my Transformer artist friends create a comic book for me. So we collaborated. We made this elaborate comic book that I sent to Steven Spielberg and Michael Bay and, you know, all the people associated with the movie, just in the hopes of saying, hey, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm not in LA. I don't have a big agent, but please notice me. And I just wanted an audition.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, I got an audition.
That's crazy.
I got an audition, and I was dumbfounded. I was literally standing in a Toys R Us looking for Transformer toys when my agent at the time called me and said, "Hey, you got the audition for Transformers," which was incredible, and that was a real turning point for me to say, "Hey, maybe I could do this."
Yeah.
So David invited me out to Los Angeles to come and visit E3 one year. I think it was 2006. And I met the folks at Activision, and I gave them my comic book and my card and one of my demo discs. And a week later, I get a call from them saying, hey, we'd like for you to audition for Starscream and a couple other characters. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. Yes, please. Thank you. Oh, boy. Because Starscream is one of my favorite characters of all time. And we did the audition, and very shortly after, they called me back and said, hey, would you like to play Starscream? And I said, yes, please. I would very much like that. Yes, please, and thank you. And that was the beginning. I recorded Starscream, who was the main villain of the Transformers game in 2007, and started going to conventions and meeting other voice actors and hearing their stories. And really kind of deciding, you know, I think LA is something I could do.
Yeah.
I think it's something I could do. So that was a long version of how I got that bug. But
no, that's awesome.
It
that's
started
a great
big.
story.
It started big. And I'm so grateful for that opportunity to the Transformer fandom in general. And of course, to all the people who gave me a chance.
I love that. I love to hear, I mean, listen, getting a voiceover gig or an acting gig of any sort is always exciting, but it's double, triple, quadruple exciting when it's something you love. So I love hearing that, like, your first big break was Transformers, which is something, you loved it enough to have, to do interviews about it and have a website about it. So, like, that's super cool. That's fantastic. Before we get into Donald, I got to ask, though, since I'm such a big theme park nerd, what do you think of the Transformers ride?
Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. The first time I went on that ride, and there's a moment, spoilers, where Optimus Prime kneels down in front of the car that you're riding and says, "Freedom fighters, you did such a great job." And I was just in tears, just like, oh my gosh, it's my Optimus Prime right in front of me. That was such an overwhelming moment, but it's such a cool ride.
It's a great ride. So had you done Spider-Man at that point?
No.
It's the same ride
system. First time I'd ever done anything like that.
Okay, that ride system is mind-blowing, and I encourage listeners, don't do it the first time you ride it. Just enjoy it the first time you ride it, but look behind you the second, third, fourth. It is unbelievable what's going on. You're on elevators when you don't even know it, going up and down this. It's incredible. So if you're a theme park nerd, and you probably are if you like Disney, Universal Studios Transformers ride, really cool. In any case, let's get into Donald Duck.
Oh, boy.
Because
or should I
that's
say,
Mickey.
Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy.
There we go. Exactly. So, Donald Duck, I got to say, how did this audition come along for you?
You know, right out of nowhere.
You're in LA at this point.
I'm in LA.
You have an agent.
It's my first year. I have a brand new agent, Michaela Stepanovich at Solid Talent. And she contacted me and said, so I hear you do the Donald voice. And I'm like, yeah, of course I do. I've done that voice my entire life. It was the very first voice I ever learned how to do. In fact, my mother taught me how to do it. So when I was a kid, she would tuck me in at night and she would say,
Oh, Daniel, I love you so much.
and I'd say,
Oh, Mom, I love you too.
and we would go back and forth, and, it was a parlor trick for friends. So when my agent said, hey, do you do this? I'm like, yeah, of course I do. So she sends me the audition, and I'm almost bewildered because it hit me. Oh my gosh, I'm in Los Angeles. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I'm reading for a character of this caliber. Oh my gosh, the weight of it, the responsibility. Let's do this.
Yeah.
I was so excited, and I took my best shot, and it took a very long time. I think it was like a month later, I found out I got a call back. And I was just beside myself. I'm like, there have to be thousands of people, just within the vicinity of Los Angeles who can do this. And
I want to get into the mechanics of the voice in a second. It's not a simple voice.
No, it's not.
So I don't think there's thousands, but still.
But that was
impressive.
my perception at the time.
Yeah.
Little old me trying for this major thing. I thought, no, there has to be somebody who's way better at this. There's no way I'm going to be able to do this. And callback happened. Another callback happened. Another callback happened. And then, hey, you got the part. And instantly my life changed.
Yeah.
I called my mom immediately and I said,
I got it.
So tough question. Who's better at it, you or your mom?
I'm going to say me.
Okay.
I'm going to say me.
Is she really good though?
She's very good.
Yeah.
She's very good. It's a different version of
Okay.
Donald. It approximates the sound,
Okay.
but she got me where I needed to be.
Great. So when you got that audition, were you like already there where you're like, oh, I know I can do this? Or did you have to go study some?
I had to study.
Okay. Were you studying like the old Clarence Nash stuff or more
Yes.
current stuff or?
I remember from the specs, they asked specifically to parrot Clarence Nash.
Okay, cool.
And, for me, that's what I grew up on. So, Apple Core, who's your friend?
Yeah.
Like that's what I grew up on. So that was easy for me to jump back into. But going from a parlor trick for friends
Sure.
to actually sounding like the character and having all those isms and things that he does, that took a great amount of practice. And to this day, I'm still mining, old content to see if there's little things that I can pick up and do, things down from the chuckle to the laugh to, to, it's always different depending on what it is. And learning those mechanisms, has been such a treat for me.
Yeah, that's wild. And now, so I do voiceover as well. And the thing about Donald is I can usually hear where a voice sits in the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk about Kermit, like you can hear he's in the throat.
Oh, we should do dueling Kermits.
Dueling Kermit?
Hey-o.
There's magic in the air this evening. Magic in the air. Take it. But in any case, like you can hear Kermit's in the throat. You can hear Mickey's in the roof of the mouth. Like you can hear all these different things. I can hear that Donald is in the side of the cheek somewhere.
Yes.
But I don't quite get it. Can you explain it?
It's hard to just explain rather than show.
Sure.
But yes, it's a pocket in the cheek. If you blow up your cheeks, and then blow up your cheeks and then push the air out,
Sure.
you can kind of feel where that pocket is, and it's just a matter of isolating that area and exercising those muscles. And for me, obviously, I've had well over 30 years of practice
Sure.
Working on that pocket. But you find that sweet spot, and being able to enunciate is then the challenge from there.
I was going to say, so it starts off kind of just as noise that you're working, and then you get words in there somehow.
Exactly.
Interesting. Yeah, that voice, it's really, I can't do it at all. I won't even try because I would embarrass myself.
Oh, come on.
No, it's, I don't even get it. Like it's...
Hey. Hey.
I don't know how... Let me get the... You got the sound.
What did you just say to me? What's the big idea?
Oh, man. It's crazy. It's a wild, wild voice. So how did you find out you got this job? Where were you?
I was on my way to go surfing for the first time. I was going to go take surfing lessons, and my day changed. So I didn't end up going surfing because I was just too beside myself.
Yeah.
I had to call everybody. I had to call my mom, my dad, my sister, my best friend, everybody. Everybody had to know, although, of course, I kind of had to keep it under wraps for a good long while. But
you're like sending your family NDAs.
Yeah. Well, my immediate grouping, they had to know what was going on for such a huge thing that was happening in my life. But of course, my mom wants to be super proud and tell everybody about it. And I recall I went to visit her at one point, and we're at CVS picking up a prescription for her, and she wants to tell the guy across the counter, oh, my son is the voice of Donald Duck. And the guy looks at her and goes, yeah, okay. And then she hands him her ID and her credit card. And I looked at her and I said, Mom, don't do that. She's like, what? I can be proud of my son. And I'm like, no, don't tell somebody something like that and give them your ID and credit card.
Oh man, that's hilarious. Proud moms.
Yes, indeed.
So how long what's like the first gig you had? How long ago was that as Donald?
It has been 4 years now.
Okay.
4 wonderful years, where they entrusted me to the keys of the cabin cruiser on Mickey and the Roadster Racers. And, it's just been such a wonderful ride, meeting the people behind the production, getting to know the people behind Disney, and then, of course, meeting the fans.
Yeah.
And really getting a sense of the community and the history, the rich history of Walt Disney, and just what people appreciate about it. The thing about Donald Duck in particular is that this character is not just my generation. Mm-hmm. It's not even my parents' generation. My grandparents grew up with Donald Duck.
Yeah.
And it's a generational thing. So the fan base behind Disney spans so many years. And my first time at D23 this year, where I met you, that was me just taking a chance and saying, I have to see it. I have to go check it out.
It's wild.
And I was just blown away. The pin trading and the zest that people have for this property is just, it's heartwarming. It's wonderful.
How much Donald stuff do you have now?
I've tried to limit it because I don't want to go too full on, because I have a Transformers collection too.
Okay, well, you've seen Bill Farmer's collection.
Oh, of course.
His goofy stuff is insane.
His stuff is great.
So you're not quite there with Donald yet.
No. I mean, look, I've been to his place, and he's got his Disney Legends trophy up on the mantle. So, I don't have one of those, but he's got all his stuff, and it's so intricately placed. And me, I'm just kind of like, okay, this sits here, that'll sit there. I've got a couple stuffed animals, and of course I've got the cars from, the Hot Wheels cars from Mickey and the Roadster Racers. And some people have gifted me some things from around the world, some Japanese versions of, Mickey and the Roadster Racers, which was wonderful. Point of fact, I was in Japan earlier this year, just to go and enjoy myself. And on my way back to the airport after a whirlwind tour of this amazing country, I'm sitting on this subway on the way to the airport, and this little kid is going vroom, vroom, vroom right next to me, and he's got a little Donald cabin cruiser.
That's awesome.
And I just kind of sat back and went, wow.
You didn't do the voice? I would have.
No.
I would have done it.
Well, when you do it for little kids, they don't necessarily understand.
Yeah.
So if a parent says, hey, do the voice for my kid, I'll say, close your eyes. Close your eyes. Because they'll look at me and they'll either go, or, they'll understand. But most of the time it's,
That's so funny. That's awesome, though. I want some fan to create a Transformers Donald Duck mashup fan art for you.
There is a Donald Duck Transformer.
Is there really?
There is, and it turns into him on a skateboard. I believe it's like a car. It's like a car that turns into him on a skateboard.
Okay.
They did a whole bunch of those. Minnie, Mickey, Goofy, and there's even a transforming gestalt, a combiner, where you can put them all together to make a big super robot.
That's crazy. So you, obviously, as you mentioned, everybody knows Donald Duck. This is a character that everybody knows. But when you get this gig, how well do you know the character? Do you know the psychology of Donald? Or is this like, okay, I've got a crash course now. Like, I need to understand the way that Donald Duck thinks.
Yes. Well, first of all, I took ample time to do my research. Mm-hmm. But, you get into the studio for the first time, and it's a learning experience. So my voice director, Kelly Ward, in concert with the wonderful people behind the production of the show, guided me as best as they could to really get a hold of how he felt behind the microphone. It's very different when you do it in person with somebody compared to in front of a microphone where you have to be mindful of technique and you have to be mindful of, doing A, B, and C takes and getting the most clarity out of it, because I think that was ultimately the goal, is they wanted the voice to be as clear and is enunciative a word to enunciate as best as possible. So, there was a learning curve, and the first couple episodes of Roadster Racers was a challenge. It eventually, over time, I felt like the character really came out in the voice. But it took some time for me to really feel comfortable with it, because I was always guessing, like, what would he do in this situation? What sound would he make in this situation? They're telling me to do one thing, but that feels different from how I remember it. So do I contradict them? Do I, ask them for another take? I was so green and unsure of myself, but just elated to be where I was. So it's been a work in progress the whole time, and I'm still learning.
Yeah.
I'm still learning.
So Donald at this point is 85 years old.
Yep.
And I mean,
85 years young.
Excuse me. 85 years young. What kind of, gosh, do you even think about this? Because it's probably unhealthy to think about, but just like the legacy of Donald Duck.
All the time.
What kind of pressure is it? Are you thinking about it when you're in the booth? Are you thinking about it really outside of the booth? Like, I don't know. That's pressure, I would assume.
I think I psych myself up a bit when I'm driving to the sessions the most, because I'm worried, okay, is the voice strong enough today? Have I rehearsed enough? Did I get every ounce of that character that I could out of my research to be able to imbue that to this current version of Donald? Absolutely. The pressure is on, because the legacy transcends me.
Yeah.
I'm just a vessel for this character, and, here for as long as they have me. And as such, I want to do the best that I can. So anytime I'm in front of that microphone is a cherished blessing that I take very seriously. And being a fan myself, if it doesn't sound good to me, I'm disappointed. So I really push myself as hard as I possibly can to make it right.
I'm curious if you feel this way. I have a hard time listening to any voiceover I do, because all I hear is me. Even when it doesn't sound like me, I'm like, I know that's me.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel that way? No, you hear Donald.
Initially, the first couple episodes, it was a transitional period for me of hearing my voice and understanding what was coming out of me. So the first couple episodes of Roadster Racers, I heard a bit of myself in there. And as time has progressed, I don't hear myself anymore.
That's awesome.
I see the character. He's animated in full color and glory, and he is his own character. Yeah.
I love that. So certain voices are definitely harder on the throat than others. Is Donald one that wears you out after a while?
Not my throat.
Okay.
Not my throat. I always said, if something happens to my vocal cords someday, I'd always be able to use my buccal speech, which is what the Donald voice is, to be able to communicate. But it is, sometimes we have to limit how many lines we're doing, per session. I can only do so much. I've been getting stronger over the years, but initially, one time I completely swelled up. My tongue swelled up. I was bleeding a little bit, and it was like, oh, should I stop, guys? I don't know if I can keep going, but if you want me to, I'll try. So I've learned my limits in that respect. But I've gotten much better. I've gotten much more stamina, and I'm able to do quite a bit now. But yeah, it is very tasking. You can only do so much before you tire out, just like any muscle.
Yeah.
I think I'm okay at it now.
Cool. So is there before you were doing Donald, is there a specific Donald project that you really loved, that you, when you think of Donald, like that was the first thing that came to mind for you?
The only thing that came to mind was that one reference from before, Apple Core.
Okay.
With Chip and Dale. That was my favorite Donald episode when I was growing up.
Mm-hmm.
So, that was the first thing I went to. The very first thing that I went to, and mining all of the classics is really what I went for and what I hold dear in my heart. I mean, everything that's come since has just been wonderful. I was a big fan of the Kingdom Hearts series, as a mild gamer, and having that character be a part of the current zeitgeist was wonderful. So yeah, I'd just go back to whatever was relevant and try to pick up the pieces and see what I could glean from that to inform my own performances.
Okay. I have a question about Donald's personality, and this is one that really kind of baffles me, and I'm curious if you can clear it up for me, because Donald is very much a character that is used for two very juxtaposed reasons. He's a sweetheart. If you think of something like Mickey's Christmas Carol, he's cast as Ebenezer Scrooge's nephew, and he's a sweet character that you love, and it feels right for Donald. But then there's also this cantankerous side of Donald that also feels right for Donald.
Yeah.
It's really weird because most characters, I don't want to say one thing, they're multidimensional, but like Goofy's goofy, Mickey's, a sweetheart. Like Donald is this weird all over the place thing.
He's everybody. He's everybody. Everybody has many sides of themselves. And Donald is the one who, when he throws a tantrum, it's kind of what we wish we could do in a public setting. But he's a wonderful guy. He's a thoughtful guy. He cares about his friends. He cares about family. Look at his relationship with his nephews and the history behind that. He's a very caring, real individual wrapped up in a cartoon body.
Yeah.
So I usually describe him that way. He's like all of us, except he gets to throw a tantrum in public.
The thing that I find most impressive about that is that like they're both so accepted, believable. Like you never see him one way or the other and you're like, I don't know, that's not Donald. It's like, no, that is Donald. And it works. And it's kind of fun, I'm sure, to play that range, I would assume. Like,
it is.
That's awesome.
On Roadster Racers, he definitely wants to win.
Yeah.
That's his objective. He wants to be first. He wants to win. And, for the younger demographic, I think that teaches some very valuable lessons when it comes to friendship and, the experiences that come as such.
Yeah. Now, you said Mickey and the Roadster Racers was the first Donald you did. Did they change the name of it or something?
They sure did. It's now Mickey Mouse Mixed Up Adventures.
So it's the same show, different title.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the same show. They switched up the format a bit. They reintroduced the wonderful hot dog song. So they have a little dance break in between episodes, and it's so joyful and it's so colorful. I really think they did a good job just kind of freshening the property a bit while keeping it going. And of course, now we have the shorts, Chippendale's Nutty Tales, and Mickey Mouse Hot Diggity Dog Tales, and, more things on the way that I can't talk about.
And this is primarily Disney Junior stuff?
Yes.
Right, yeah. And now, do you ever get to record with the gang, or is this always solo in a booth?
No, we record individually. There was one time where there was a scheduling mix-up, and Brett Iwan and I were in the studio at the same time. And,
Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, Mickey Mouse. And 10 years, as of recently, he's been the voice of Mickey for 10 years. We were just at the studio at the same time, and they said, hey, why don't we put you guys in the booth? Because it was a Donald Mickey episode.
Yeah.
And we got in the booth together, and the chemistry was amazing. We had so much fun, and we looked at each other like, why don't we do this all the time?
Yeah.
But, as a matter of scheduling and other factors, we record individually.
Yeah. Now, do you get those scripts in advance, or is this one of those show up you do?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and I insist that I get my scripts with at least enough time to be able to practice.
Yeah.
Because, again, I take a lot of responsibility on making this character the best that I can and doing him justice. So yeah, I read my scripts all the way through, get the context, and when I get into the studio, I hopefully know what I'm doing.
Yeah. So you've been doing a lot of Donald for Disney Junior, which is awesome, fantastic.
Yeah.
But we all have dreams when it comes to characters. For me, it's like, I'd love to hear my voice in a park, whether it's a ride or a parade or something someday. Is there some place you dream of hearing your Donald, whether it's, a Disney park or a movie or merchandise or video game, whatever?
I feel like my dream has already come true.
Okay.
So it's hard for me to say I wish this or I wish that. It's already come true. But I would love to, do other things. But look, like I said before, I'm borrowing the keys to the cabin cruiser for as long as they let me, and I'm grateful every time I get to do that. So this is my joy. This is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me, and I just hope to do it for as long as I can.
Now, I know you've done on-camera stuff as well, but
yes.
If you were only doing voiceover the rest of your career, or if you had to choose one, would you be able to?
Oh, don't make me do it.
Okay.
Don't make
so
me
you do
it.
love them both equally.
I do. I really do. When I came out to Los Angeles, I said I'm going to focus exclusively on voiceover.
Okay.
Because I recognize that every facet of the entertainment industry is its own world.
Yep.
So 5 years in, since I've been here in Los Angeles, I'm still learning, the different casting directors, producers, people who are associated with different shows, and, learning the market and growing as a performer, learning different facets of voiceover, like promo and commercial and other things. But, I do animation primarily. I've been around Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network. And, a bunch of other things. And, I love voiceover, but I do miss on camera.
Okay.
I want to get started on that here again at some point. But once again, it's a large investment of time. Mm-hmm. And as of right now, most of my time is dedicated to voiceover, and I couldn't be happier.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So someday.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So this is a tough question, but, you got the Donald role, but is there a Disney character that, if you could choose any Disney character to perform, whether or not you're good at it doesn't matter, just like a character you love, is there one that you would choose other than Donald, or is he the guy for you?
So I would say the character Pain from Hercules, which was voiced by Bobcat Goldthwait, only because that's one of my favorite impressions. I really like doing Bobcat Goldthwait, but he's just one of those guys that I want to. I'd really like to do at some point. But that's his character. But just because of the impression, that's one of my favorites.
That is not one I would expect to hear. And have you ever heard him not talk like that?
Yeah, no, he doesn't talk like that normally. That was just for his comedy routines. He's a prolific director now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Death to Smoochie with Robin Williams, World's Greatest Dad.
No kidding.
Very, very interesting filmmaker, and I like his work.
Interesting. That's a random choice. I love it. So before we wrap things up here, are there any...
Is it time to wrap up already?
But unless you've got some more stuff you want to talk about, I'm always happy to hear more stories.
I do. I have to throw in, before I moved out here, my mom was dealing with a bout of cancer, and it was a really sad time in our lives before I moved out here, and, she has always been my creative inspiration. She was a painter and an artist, a sculptor. So every day I would come home from school, she would have something freshly made or sculpted. And it was always a part of my life, seeing her artwork and having that be a part of who I am. And when the cancer happened, I kind of saw her diminish a little bit. That sparkle went out of her eyes. And it was hard for me to see that. So I'm out here doing this, and I get the Donald Duck thing, and I was able to fly her out here and take her to production where they actually make the show, and she got to see everybody sketching and drawing, and she got to meet the people behind the scenes who pursued a life of art. And that spark came back.
That's awesome.
And we went down to Disney Studios, and we went down to Legends Plaza, and we just got to be in awe together of the legacy of Walt Disney. And that was an amazing thing to share with her because, again, she taught me the voice.
Yeah.
She brought me into this world, but she taught me the voice.
Yeah.
And to be able to give that back in such a way out of a traumatic experience, I think was just worth more than gold to me. So I'm grateful again for Disney and the people behind the scenes who spend most of their time making this show. And yeah, I love my mom.
Is she still in Maryland?
She is.
Okay.
She is. She's still back in Maryland, and she wants to get back out here as often as she can. She misses it.
Yeah, LA, I mean, the weather, man.
It's LA. You got the beach, you got the mountains.
It is funny, though. You mentioned, the team of people that make the TV show.
Yeah.
It is interesting to me that how much credit the voice actor gets, not to take anything away from voice acting, But
I know what you're getting
let's
at.
Let's face it,
it's true.
We spend the least time working on this thing. The artists are working on an episode for long periods of time, and the writers and stuff. And then, voice actors step into a booth, give a fantastic performance, and get so much of the credit for it. It's really unfair if you think about it.
There is an army behind every single one of these shows, from boarding artists to background designers, prop makers, writers, editors, colorists, executive producers, directors. There is an army of people who are excited about the property, who create art every single day and create joy around the world with what they do. There is no better job to have than to create that kind of impact on the world. And, look, our show is featured around the world. We're in Africa, we're in Europe, we're everywhere. And, people revel in these characters and the stories that are told, and children are growing up with these stories like I grew up with the stories. So it's amazing to see that in practice and being behind the scenes now to be a small part of that. Yeah, the voice actors tend to get a lot of credit, but I'll tell you something, the people behind the scenes deserve it the most. They do the brunt of the work, and they're just wonderful people. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Is there anything you'd like to plug? Your social media, or do you have a website?
Oh, you know me too well. You know what? You can find me all over social media at actor Daniel Ross. I know it's a little bit pretentious, but it's actor Daniel Ross, Twitter, Instagram.
There's a sports figure with the same name, right? Is that why?
There is a football guy, and I think there's a hairstylist, and there's another actor who takes the same name, but I am actor Daniel Ross.
Fantastic.
So please follow me and all of my shenanigans online, and I look forward to meeting you and hearing some of your stories. And thank you again for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on. This has been a blast. Thanks again to Daniel for joining me to kick off the 7th season of Disney Coast to Coast. I hope you all enjoyed the conversation. Whether this is the first episode you've listened to or one of hundreds, I just wanted to say thank you for joining me for another season of Disney Coast to Coast. For more information and free gifts, visit DisneyCoastToCoast.com. Other than that, folks, have a magical day. Bye!
Thanks for listening to Disney Coast to Coast. Have a magical day.
Disney Coast to Coast is produced and hosted by Jeff DePauli. Learn more about the podcast and become a supporter at DisneyCoastToCoast.com.